3 counties, 24 cities, working together, accomplishing more than any of us could alone. Whether your roots run generations deep, or you recently moved to Greater Portland, you are a part of Metro, the nation's only regional government elected by the people. Planning for the future, preserving what we love. Let's keep our region thriving for decades to come.
Hello, I'm Rory. You may have seen me at my desk as you came into the Metro Regional Center. Welcome. The Council Chambers is located on the 3rd floor of this building. In the event of a fire or a fire alarm, please exit through the northeast corner of the room. Go down the steps to the 2nd floor, then continue straight ahead past my desk and exit through the main entrance to the plaza outside. The nearest defibrillator is located right outside of the front desk at the top of the steps to Grand Avenue. Thanks for joining us at the Metro Regional Center. We hope you have a safe day.
Okay, we're going to declare a quorum and call the Metro Council business meeting to order.
Hello, I'm Rory. You may have seen me.
I'm just going to keep it going.
Encore?
Yeah, I will call the roll.
Okay, let's call the roll, yeah.
Counselor Rosenthal?
Present.
Counselor Palacios?
Present.
Counselor Lewis?
Present.
Counselor Simpson, Counselor Nolan, and Council President Gonzalez are excused today, and Deputy Council President Wong.
Present, thank you. Okay, before we begin today's meeting, I want to take a moment to thank Ren Helzer-Florer for spending the last year with us as a council office intern. Come on up, Ren. This is Ren's last week. She's wrapping up her time and departing for her new role with Congresswoman Maxine Dexter's office. Ren has been a trailblazer here at Metro. She was the first intern to produce social media and video content for our office. And she also created a brand new council office intern shadow day for the Oregon Zoo's ZAP interns to spend a day learning about the council office. She quickly stepped up into the lead intern role when our previous intern, Trevor, departed for other employment. Ren has staffed multiple counselors, including myself, developed keen interest in housing policy, and helped put on many successful events and programs throughout the year. Ren, we were lucky to have you, and we wish you the best on your next adventure.
Thank you all.
Thanks for joining us. Councilor, is there anything to add? Councilor Lewis?
I just want to personally thank Ren, not only for the work here at Metro and around the office, helping keep everything moving, but in particular for diving in on the project assignment of the Willamette Falls Locks Authority. That in and of itself is like a whole second internship, keeping track of communication, a website, public meetings, public records, and supporting a very lean and sometimes mean team. So thank you for everything you did there to really cement kind of some systems that are going to endure well beyond, and glad that you're only going a few buildings over, and we'll see you around. Thank you.
Ren, do you think you'll be on social media more or less now?
You all?
You.
Should I be on social media more?
Or are you going to be on social media more or less?
We'll see.
Great. Well, congratulations and thanks for all you've contributed to Metro.
Thank you all.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you also, Ren, for being around, and your presence has been very much appreciated. We will miss you. I think you're going to a good place where there's going to be a lot of excitement, and it's also been nice to have somebody in the office whose name is a Ren. It's a cool name.
Shout out birds, yeah.
Thank you.
And if it's okay, I'll just say it was nice to know you these last 3 days.
Yes, really good 3 days, yeah.
Very well. Thank you, Ren.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to public communication. We'll open up public communications on non-agenda items. Georgia, will you please describe to the audience our procedures that we will use for public communications?
Absolutely. If you are testifying on non-agenda items, now is the time to do so. If you are testifying in person, please sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call in your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes, and the timer begins when you begin speaking. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. If you are testifying on an agenda item and have not signed up in advance, please fill out a blue card and bring it up to me now or anytime before the agenda item, or raise your hand at the virtual hand at the beginning of the agenda item that you wish to testify on. And let me see. Sharon Nassett is signed up to testify. I'm not sure if it's for non-agenda items or agenda items. Sharon, do you want to raise your hand if you're testifying on non-agenda items? If you are testifying on the Rose Quarter, okay, great. I will, if you're testifying in the Rose Quarter, do not raise your hand. Okay, you raise your hand for like a second, and then I'm gonna promote you to a panelist, and we'll get you going, perfect. All right. I'm not seeing this promotion go through, so I'm going to assume that Sharon is testifying on the Rose Quarter for today. Deputy Council President, we do not have anyone who's attending to testify on non-agenda items.
All right,
Thank you.
great. We'll resolution number 26-561.
Good morning. For the record, I am Sharon Nassett.
Oh, okay.
Sorry it takes so long to go
Take it.
through.
Okay.
It's not Sharon Gonzalez. Sharon Hu. Or, anyways.
Sharon, we can't hear you very well. Do you think you could speak up a little?
I would like to remind the Metro Council, as a Metropolitan Planning Organization, that in May, I started asking formally all of the project sponsor agencies, which you are one of, for a complete inspection of the I-5 bridge, a list of the repairs that are required, the cost of the repairs, and why we are replacing the bridge instead of repairing the bridges. That should have already been something that has been known. In 2005, when the CRC started, they went out to the community and brought in a range of alternatives thoroughly and equally to study. If they were not supposed to be studying a range of alternatives and different bridges, then they shouldn't have brought in a range of alternatives. In the CRC Federal Register that lists what they are to be looking at, which I have sent you documents of, it states clearly they are to be looking at alternatives, including freeways and highways, to be studied thoroughly for the impacts on the community, the benefits, through construction and operations. We know they have said they removed all of the projects the community brought in and 70 components. The Metropolitan Planning Organization received letters from RTC, CTRAN, Clark County Commissioners, Senator Benton with letters from Oregon and Washington senators and representatives saying the NEPA process was not followed because they removed the alternatives. You cannot say one is the best and remove the alternatives. Then they quickly moved on to it's because the bridge was supposed to be replaced. I have been in the process since 2000. It has always been adding additional bridges unless the bridge needs to be replaced. I have provided documentation with Oregon State seal on it from 205 that says the bridge has 60 years of life left. It's solid and is structurally sufficient. And they have not provided one independent report, one list of anything wrong. You know it's wrong, you feel it in your gut. Where is the report? Prove that the bridges need to be replaced. It has always been about relieving congestion. We should be ashamed. 25 years we have been in the top 10 congestion, 26th in size, 60th in density. That's terrible. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Let's know. Give me a list, repairs of the bridge and costs, or leave it alone. Thanks.
Thank you, Sharon.
Okay, now we have no one else who has signed up to testify on non-agenda items.
We'll-
Thank
we'll
you. Thank you,
close.
Sharon.
We'll close public testimony and move on to our consent agenda. We'll consider resolution number 26-5619 for the purpose of amending or adding 6 projects to the 2024 to 2027 MTIP to meet federal project delivery requirements. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move consent.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Councilor Lewis, seconded by Councilor Rosenthal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Seeing none, the resolution passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to resolutions, starting with resolution number 26-5596 for the purpose of amending Metro's procurement and public contracting administrative rules. Last month, staff joined us at a work session to describe certain changes to Metro's procurement and contracting rules to prioritize efficiency and comply with changes to state law. To consider these changes, I will recess the meeting of the Metro Council and convene the Metro Contract Review Board. Back with us today is Gabrielle Schuster, Procurement Manager, to briefly review the changes with us. Good to see you.
Gabi Schuster, Procurement Manager at Metro. We're here today to ask you to approve the proposed changes to the local contract review board rules that we discussed on June 9th in a work session. I will do a little recap for the record of what we talked about. The original administrative rules were implemented in 2017, and they have since been updated several times. They need to be updated for administrative purposes when the state of Oregon updates their rules. Most recently, that was in 2023. And these proposed changes ensure that our policies remain clear and consistent and also meet Metro's operational needs. The changes are mostly administrative to align again with the state of Oregon public contracting rules, but there were some particular items that were significant, and I'm going to point them out here again. There were clarifications around the requirements on contract amendment rules and also the sole source process. And then we are also adopting from the state of Oregon a direct contract threshold for architect engineering estimates, smaller estimates. And this is also a great opportunity for small businesses. It creates access for small A&E businesses. And then in terms of the equity in contracting rules, we are making some targeted changes to focus more on strategy and our outreach work and proactive engagement rather than a compliance-based, internal compliance-based process. And some things I want to point out here again that are activities that are most impactful, that have proven over the years, activities that we have done, they're impactful and meaningful, is our outreach work and that early engagement with small business communities and small business support organizations like NAMAC, OAMI, PBDG, Latino Build. There's a whole list of nonprofits that we work with that support small businesses. Also the relationship and trust building. We show up in person And we also have our own small business open house every year in February in partnership with Multnomah County. And then there's also the skills and development training. This is a really successful program that we have in procurement that addresses the most commonly experienced barriers for small businesses, which is bid writing, proposal writing, navigating the procurement process, and being able to talk to a procurement person. All of that is in our small business training program that is funded by Metro. And with that, we are asking you to approve these changes today to the local contract review board rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilors, are there any questions? Oh, Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you. So I clicked into the staff report and the exhibits late last night in preparation. I'm curious, the documents don't seem to be track changes, and I don't actually see in the staff report, I see rationale for what the changes are. I don't see a listing of the changes. So I guess I'm curious what it is we're doing here today.
We realized when we came in this morning that the red line versions weren't attached when we submitted the documents, and we will submit them to you. They should have been submitted right away. So you got the finalized versions with the accepted changes and not the redlined ones. They were submitted for the June 9th meeting, but I think not for this meeting. Is that right?
Deputy Council President Huang and Councilor Lewis, yes, I think that Gabrielle is explaining it correctly. The red line changes were as part of the June packet, and I think therefore not attached to the staff report here. When we attach to the resolution adopting, this is a resolution, correct? Yes, when attached to a resolution, we typically show the clean version so that everyone knows what actually is being adopted. And they were somewhat more extensive, so for readability issues, it makes it harder. We certainly can, if council wanted to receive those before you take action, I think we could probably quickly print those red line changes. We could add them to the packet of the materials just for legislative history for the future. I don't think they're necessary to be before council today because you have the information on which you're acting. And it was part of the June work session, but again, that's to council preference.
Okay, yeah, I am dusting off the cobwebs and remembering the previous discussion. So long as that is still in the record, I'm comfortable moving forward.
It is.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion on resolution 26-5596?
I will move adoption.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Councilor Rosenthal and seconded by Councilor Lewis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Georgia, can you please call the roll?
Councilor Palacios?
Yes.
Councilor Lewis?
Aye.
Councilor Rosenthal?
Aye.
Deputy Council President Wong?
Aye. The resolution passes unanimously, and the Metro Contract Review Board is now adjourned, and the meeting of the Metro Council is now reconvened. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Our next resolution is resolution number 26-5600 for purpose of amending 3 I-5 Rose Quarter projects to the 2024 to 2027 MTIP to meet federal project delivery requirements. Our primary business item today is consideration of the Rose Quarter MTIP amendment or the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Plan. This item came before JPAC earlier today and was approved unanimously. The package before us includes 3 projects, and staff are here to share their recommendation on these projects before we consider adoption today. We have staff from Metro's Planning Development and Research Department and the Oregon Department of Transportation. So to welcome Gabriela Lopez, Senior Transportation Planner, Monica Blanchard, Interim Program Director at ODA, and David Kim, Project Delivery Manager at ODA. Welcome back.
Do we need to push the button? Could we just talk? Okay, great. So good morning, Deputy Council President Huang and members of the council. We're here this morning to provide a brief overview of the Rose Quarter project and provide some context to the MTIP amendment, and then Gabby will cover the specifics of the MTIP amendment. So with the Rose Quarter project, this is a project that has many challenges and opportunities with safety, operations, congestion, freight mobility, seismic resiliency, and restorative redevelopment opportunities. So if we go to the next slide. So this is a full build out of the Rose Quarter project, and it's been in the works for many years, going through a robust environmental assessment process. And we are at a point right now where we have gained support and alignment from our project partners and the community. And so the major scope elements that address what I just shared as it relates to the problems and opportunities is we're looking at developing and constructing a highway cover that will allow for development opportunities to reconnect the Albina neighborhood. On top of the cover, we'll construct a new crossing at Hancock Street. There'll be a series of multimodal street improvements to help with safe bicycle and pedestrian activities as well as transit. We're also looking to construct a new crossing over I-5 specific to bicycle and pedestrians. And then on the mainline highway, we'll be installing auxiliary lanes and wider shoulders for disabled vehicles and for improving time for cars and trucks to weave and merge between the ramps and the main line. And lastly, we'll be relocating the I-5 southbound off-ramp that's currently located at Broadway further to the south so that does not conflict with the surface street users on the cover. This project, because of its size and complexity and the funding availability, is being designed and constructed in phases. And Monica will speak to some of the phases and the specifics for how the funds are being moved around.
Yeah, thank you, David. And if we go to the next slide, I'm just going to run through, we went through this in the work session a few weeks ago, and so I will just run through this quickly again. You know, this amendment is important, but it's primarily administrative to align our project programming with the current funding realities with the rescission of the Reconnecting Communities grant and then that phasing that David has talked about. This is has been agreed upon, this phasing, with our project management group partners after a lot of coordination, and as well as in alignment with the Oregon Transportation Commission's direction to maintain continuous construction. So no new funds are being added. This is existing, previous funds are being redistributed between the phases in order to achieve those goals of completing the phases of construction and moving on to our next steps. And as David mentioned, given the size and complexity, we are delivering in phases. So the first phase that I'm going to talk about is our preliminary engineering phase. That encompasses engineering for all of the construction phase projects. We are, as a part of this amendment, adding $3 million, moving $3 million, moving $3 million from phase one construction into the preliminary engineering bucket. This is to cover pre-construction costs for our construction contractor. During construction with our CMGC delivery model, they are providing services such as cost estimating, constructability reviews, scheduling, and then eventual contracting prior to construction, which is all key to delivering a project under the CMGC delivery model. And then moving into the actual construction phases, what's up on the screen here is phase 1A. This is what's currently under construction at the north and south end of the project and is roughly 45% complete. The MTIP amendment moves $18 million from the phase one construction project into this phase 1A construction project, which allows us to accelerate some of the work via contract change order into this existing phase. That work includes the northbound bridge deck overlay, northbound bridge rail retrofits, and some northbound seismic upgrades. By advancing this work via contract change order, we're able to accelerate the work and minimize costs of remobilization and additional overhead, because this work is at a design point that it is ready to be incorporated into the current construction project. This also aligns with the December direction and the PMG's desire as well to maintain continuous construction for our construction crews out there. So on to the next slide for the Phase 1B project. So this amendment updates the project name and description for Phase 1 to accurately reflect the work that we are able to deliver with the remaining available funds after the Reconnecting Communities Grant construction funding was rescinded. So updating the project name from Phase 1 Broadway Weidler, or I-5 Rose Quarter Broadway to Weidler Phase 1 to I-5 Rose Quarter Phase 1B, and then revising the project description to reflect that scaled and focused scope that we are able to deliver with the remaining funds, and then it removes those Reconnecting Communities funds. I do want to emphasize again that ODOT is committed to delivering the project in full. This is just the next phase of work that we are able to do to continue to move us towards that goal. This work includes the bridge over the Holiday Haslow Bridge is what we call it, so over the Rose Quarter Transit Center near the Moda Center. It includes seismic retrofit work, bridge rail replacement, retaining walls and embankment, associated local street improvements, and then there's architectural work around the transit center. We do have FHWA's concurrence that this scope of work does have independent utility, and it is primarily focused on preserving the aging infrastructure in that area, as well as creating some safety shoulders where I-84 comes into I-5 North. So then moving on to the next slide. So we have worked with our partners in the project management group over the last several months to agree on the next phase of the project beyond this funded phase. We do, that we will continue to seek funding for. So we do have what we call Phase 1C. This currently has design and right-of-way and utility funding, but does not have construction funding. This phase is unfunded in construction. This is the minimum viable project that is the next step that we can seek funding for, and it also does round out the previous agreement of the full Phase 1 that was agreed to prior to rescission of the Reconnecting Communities Grant. It delivers meaningful work on both the highway system as well as advancing the highway cover construction. When completed, this work will complete roughly 30% of the highway cover and local connectivity there, and open up several parcels of land for development. And by advancing the design for this project with the available funds that we have, we will be getting us closer to construction readiness and be more competitive for federal and state and grants to fund this project in the future, or this phase in the future. So then on to the next slide. So design, right-of-way, utilities, and construction for all the remaining scope elements beyond Phase 1C is currently unfunded. What's shown on the screen here represents all the remaining scope elements to complete the full NEPA-approved project. This includes the remaining 2/3 of the highway cover and associated multimodal local street improvements, the southbound ramp relocation with the I-5 flyover, the bike and pedestrian bridge, the remaining northbound merging lanes and shoulders, and the remaining I-5 bridge deck work. As I mentioned, Phase 1C is what our project management group has agreed to as the next phase that we'll seek funding for, but we will also continue to seek funding for the project in full in all of this future work. And again, I just wanted to emphasize our continued commitment to delivering the project in its entirety and moving through these phases together. And I have one final slide, just recapping some of the questions that came up. Before we get to that, I guess, for the data collection, so there has been, for the data collection slide, Georgia, if you could go back to that. Yeah, for data collection. So we have had a lot of questions come up. We have we discussed in the work session, the upcoming I-5 closure. And we've had a lot of questions across a lot of engagement around data collection, and just wanted to follow up and let you know that we have started developing a plan for the data that will be collected, both on the ODOT system as well as local systems. We've had regular meetings with PBOT staff. We are coordinating with other municipalities to understand the ability to collect data on their systems. And then for ODOT data, we'll be collecting data on I-5, I-405, 205, as well as 84. That's not listed on here, but all of the major corridors in the region will be collecting data to understand how folks use the system while I-5 southbound is closed for up to 5 weeks. So then on the next slide. Yeah, so this is, just wanted to follow up on some of the questions that came up, or all the questions that came up during the work session. So we had a question around funding and the $250 million that was moved back to Rose Quarter from Abernathy. This funding is being used currently, a portion of it in Phase 1A, and will be used for Phase 1B construction. For phasing, there was a question around phasing. So the upcoming September closure and the work in Phase 1B has independent utility, meaning that it will improve safety and traffic flow regardless of planned future phases, and there is no throwaway work and that will be taken out in future phases. So we had a question around the auxiliary lanes and what will be available at the end of Phase 1A. So at the end of Phase 1A, we will extend the southbound auxiliary lane where you currently get on at Moda Center and have to either get off at 84 or merge over. That will be, that merging lane will be extended down to the Morrison Bridge. And then recent emergency work. Several weeks ago, we had some recent emergency closures of I-84, just clarifying that that was part of a crash, and we had to do some emergency repairs to the Gore there, so that wasn't associated with the project work, but was in the project area. And with that, I will turn it over to Gabby.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, Gabriela Lopez. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior transportation planner here at Metro, and I'm going to be presenting on the details of how this proposed amendment would be reflected in our Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program. So this is the July federal fiscal year 2026 I-5 Rose Quarter MTIP formal amendment bundle. Next slide, please. And included in the amendment, as Monica mentioned, are 3 existing MTIP projects for Rose Quarter. So the programming changes for this amendment mostly are for the rescinded NAE grant funds. So this would be a total decrease, net decrease in the MTIP of $382.2 million based on these amendments. Next slide. The recommended action from JPAC, as you heard this morning, was unanimous to approve a resolution, and included in the meeting packet are the staff report, the resolution Exhibit A, which is the project detail report, which shows the proposed programming and last approved programming for these projects, the public comment summary report, the staff memo on the major project assessment, as well as the project fact sheet, which goes into the details of the different phasing. Next slide. Next, I'll go in through each of the individual projects and the changes proposed for them. The first one is the I-5 Rose Quarter Improvement Project. This is the preliminary engineering phase that Monica is referring to. So this proposed amendment would increase the project from $247 million to $250 million. And this is through the increase of preliminary engineering phase of the $3 million funds that are being moved from the other project that we will be discussing later on. There's also a decrease in the other phase by $250,000, which is a portion of the rescinded neighborhood access and equity funds that from USDOT. There's also a movement in the other phase to move from federal fiscal year 2026 to 2027. And we also, through this amendment, completed a technical correction just to make sure that the fund types identified for the project were consistent with what was in the ODOT STIP. Next slide. The second project is I-5 Rose Quarter Phase 1A. For this proposed amendment, the total project would increase from $75 million to $93 million, and this is through an increase in construction of $18 million, similar to the first project, that are being moved from what is now renamed Phase 1B, and all the approved scope associated with these $18 million will be delivered under this ODOT KEY project. Next slide. And the third project is the I-5 Rose Quarter to be renamed Phase 1B. As Monica mentioned, the change in project description would be to reflect the change in scope with the removal of the rescinded funds. And the changes in the construction phase would be a total decrease of $402,950,000, which includes the $21 million that is being distributed to the other two first projects, as well as the removal of $382.2 million of rescinded USDOT neighborhood access equity funds, and adding $300,000 of advanced construction to this project. The construction phase will also be moved from obligated in federal fiscal year 2026 to 2027. Next slide, please. So major project assessments are completed when a proposed MTM amendment either has capacity enhancing, is regionally significant, or has over $100 million. So this was completed for this formal amendment, and it documents how the proposed amendments will perform in accordance with local, regional, and state transportation policies, as well as our the 5 area goals identified in the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan. Since the full build of the project is not being proposed to be changed through this formal amendment, the analysis results from this major project assessment remain the same as those in the approved March 2025 formal amendment. Next slide. We did complete a required public comment period of 30 days, which opened on June 1st and closed on July 1st. We did receive a total of 3 written testimonies via email, and the testimony from 2 attendees at the JPACT June 18, 2026 meeting. The full information can be found in the Exhibit B of the Public Comment Summary Report, but some of the comments included concerns of the proposed design for Phase 1B now that there's that lack of funding, concerns of the environmental assessment conducted for the project, as well as overall concerns for freeway investments and upcoming challenges for the region. Next slide. This is our timeline processing for approval. So we started the public comment period June 1st. We then did a round of overview presentations at TPAC, JPACT, and Metro Council on June 5th, 18, and the 30th. For JPACT, due to insufficient time, we were not able to do the presentation. However, they did receive a link with the timestamp recording of the June 30th council meeting in which this item was presented, so that they could see the staff presentation, and they did have all the information included in their packet. And at the conclusion of the 30-day public comment period, we finalized our summary, and that was presented for TPAC action, which occurred on July 10th. And this morning, as mentioned, JPACT approved unanimously to recommend approval of the resolution. So today we are here for action from Metro Council to either approve or not the recommendation for JPACT. And then the next slide, we'll see what that recommended approval is, which is approval of resolution 26-5600 to amend 3 I-5 Rose Quarter projects as stated within Exhibit A to the 2024-2027 MTIP to meet federal project delivery requirements.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentations. Councilors, any questions for staff about the presentations? We'll hold comments and deliberation until after public comment. Okay, seeing no questions, let's move on to public comment on resolution number 26-5600. We have some people signed up to comment today on this resolution. Before we begin council discussion, I'll ask Georgia to reread procedures for public comment.
Absolutely. If you are here to testify on resolution number 26-5600, now is the time to do so. If you have not done so in advance, please sign up to testify by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus, or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call in your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. The timer begins when you begin speaking. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And if we could have one, thank you. Perfect. Amazing. Our first person up today is Joseph Courtwright.
Good morning, councilors. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify. For the record, I'm Joe Courtwright. I'm director of City Observatory. I'm an economist and spend a lot of time on transportation policy. I just want to observe that today we're in the midst of Northwest Climate Week, and all around the region we're celebrating our efforts in climate. And I just want to point out you've chosen a really interesting way to celebrate Climate Week today, because what you're doing is proceeding to make an open-ended commitment to a multi-billion-dollar fossil fuel infrastructure project, and you're passing the bill on to future generations and doing so in a way that will preclude the people who are sitting in your seats a decade and more from now from having the resources that they need to deal with a manifest climate crisis. And by doing so, you are literally contradicting your own adopted policies and state law that require you to plan for a reduction in driving and greenhouse gases from transportation. This is just not environmentally responsible, it's also fiscally irresponsible. Now, I'll just note that in their presentation in discussing this project, ODOT staff didn't happen to mention the total cost of the project. They talked about just the next increment of the cost of the project. The projected cost, according to the latest numbers, is $2.1 billion, up from $450 million when the project was approved in 2017. Outgoing ODOT Transportation Commissioner Alicia Chapman said almost a year ago that she expected the project cost to exceed $2.5 billion. And if their track record is any indication, we know that this will be much, much more expensive. And they have less than a quarter of the amount of money that they need to build the whole project. Most of the funding that they have has evaporated. Most of the $450 million from the Reconnecting Communities grant was rescinded by President Trump. Perhaps more ominously, the Biden administration turned ODOT down flat for $750 million for the project back when there was support for this. Make no mistake, once a project like this is started, it will become the region to ask for the indefinite future. The project is grossly supersized. They are doubling the width of the freeway through here, ostensibly to add just a single lane in each direction. But their own consultants, Arup, said that the project was at least 40 feet wider than it needed to be. This is a vastly over-engineered project that is driving the costs. This is an affront to our climate goals. You have an adopted regional transportation plan that says you're going to reduce greenhouse gases driving by 35% per capita by 2045. But the projections on which the capacity and analysis for this project are based assume that driving continues to increase, that total traffic on I-5 in the Rose Quarter grows by more than 20% between now and 2045, when your adopted regional plan calls for it to decline by 12%. It's utterly inconsistent with your adopted regional transportation plan. And I'll just note, by committing to this project, you're jeopardizing the availability of funding for everything else, particularly including transit. And I'll just note, TriMet is in the process right now of slashing transit. Transit ridership is down from about 240,000 trips per day in 2019 to fewer than 200,000 trips per day. Your RTP assumes that we will almost double transit ridership to 440,000 by 2045. That's never going to happen, and you're not going to have the resources to even maintain the level of ridership. And a big reason is you are obligating this region for the indefinite future to invest in massive, oversized freeway construction projects like the Rose Quarter, the Interstate Bridge, and the Abernathy Bridge projects. This is a tragic financial and environmental mistake. I hope you'll reconsider. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. All right, I am not seeing any hands raised in the virtual audience. I'm going to give it a moment. Okay, Sharon, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. See if I can snag you in the audience. And Deputy Council President, sometimes it takes a little bit, as we know, for Sharon's network to connect. It was very close to 205. All right, Sharon, it looks like you've entered the panelist section.
Hello.
Hi.
For the record, I am Sharon Nassett. Thank you very much. Joe Cartwright, Cartwright has been very, very consistent in the last decade or two in pointing out the obvious. Not only that, it's overfunded, overbloated, we don't have the money for it, wrong direction, and environmentally inappropriate. I would like to point out that our community was promised in 2000 we would have an environmental impact statement on the Rose Quarter because, as it has been said several times during this meeting, its size, its complexity, its cost, the community involvement, the freight, the money, its size, its complexity. And then it said only an environmental assessment. We were promised an environmental impact. The community has not been allowed to bring forth our projects because only the projects from the ether came out. We have a project that does not widen the freeway at all, that adds on and off ramps, extra on and off ramps that go directly into the Rose Quarter, taking all of the traffic from the south, going south and coming from the south, out of the neighborhood, off of the Lloyd Center exit. Think about that. We have a directional on and off to the Morrison Street Bridge and the Southeast Center inside the right-of-way. We have a way to take the surface level traffic that wants to go onto I-84 without ever going onto I-5. We have a way to take the current I-84 exit at the top of the Sullivan Gulch and have it directly go in to the area that feeds Morrison Bridge and Southeast Portland. Yeah. Wow. They're not offering new on and off ramps to an area that has 40,000 seats. 20 in the Milk Road, 12 in the Oregon Convention, 8 in the Coliseum. All the supplies, all the staff. They're not talking about any of that. We are, but we haven't been heard. It's size, it's complex, it's got to be years. Money's now, there, here, grab. But don't involve the community. Don't let us have all our alternatives looked at. Do not give them any more money. Stop and make an environmental impact statement as promised to us in 2000 during the I-5 partnership and promised at the beginning of the CRC when they removed it. It's too complex. It's got to have its own environmental impact statement. And now an environmental assessment. Please, you can do so much better. Just stop. The problem's been there for a long time. And invite the community in. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do not have anyone else who has signed up to testify today. I'm not seeing any other hands raised in the audience. And no one else in the virtual or the physical audience.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close testimony and begin council discussion. Councilors, any discussion? Maybe Chair Lewis, could you describe the tenor of JPAC this morning on the vote?
The JPAC presentation was very similar to the one we just had. We had similar public testimony, and we had unanimous support for this item on the JPAC.
Okay. Thank you.
One comment about diversion would be applicable to raise.
Okay, councilors, seeing no further discussion, is there a motion on resolution 26-5600?
I'll move. $5,256,600.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's moved by Councilor Lewis and seconded by Councilor Palacios. Seeing no more discussion, Georgia, can you please call for roll?
Counselor Rosenthal?
Aye.
Counselor Palacios?
Aye.
Counselor Lewis?
Aye.
Deputy Council President Wong?
Aye, the resolution passes unanimously. Thank you all for coming in.
Thank you.
We appreciate Metro's partnership and support. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to COO Communications. Marisa, what do we got today?
Well, we have a couple committee updates today, but before I hand the floor over Liam will give a recap of the RPOC meeting, and Ted will give us an update on the JPAC meeting. I wanted to make a special note of a couple of this month's employee anniversaries. We have 2 staff members celebrating 25 years at Metro this month. That is a quarter of a century of public service. Thank you to Kim Paul and Julie Christie. Kim and Julie started work at Metro on July 16th and 20th, 2001. From Kim's manager, they say, over the years, Kim Paul has contributed her talents across many Metro areas, such as the council office, the Oregon Zoo, finance, and now procurement. With her depth of institutional knowledge and her positive can-do attitude, she consistently goes above and beyond to support her team and customers. And from Julie's manager, Julie Christie is an animal keeper at the Oregon Zoo. Julie is an integral member of the marine life team, where she brings a strong work ethic and a fun disposition. Her passion for animal care and conservation are commendable. And then lastly, but definitely not least, we also have a staff member who is celebrating their 50-year anniversary with P5. I think that's older than Metro. So they've been at P5 before Metro was formed, but we count all 50 years. That's half a century in public service and dedication to the arts. Dave Cutter is a stage door attendant at P5 and began working here at Metro on July 24th, 1976. From Dave's manager, Dave works the 3 stage doors at Portland 5. He knows all our clients and they know him well. Dave has known the local music landscape since 1962, creating his Sundown Sound Company, and has many stories to share about all the music artists he has met along the way. He is an inductee to the Oregon Music Hall of Fame in 2016. Dave is well respected and is a wonderful stage door attendant. I just could not resist talking about him today. I think that is incredible, 50 years. So if we could just have a little round of applause for all our folks. 100 years collectively of service to Metro. So, Ted?
Okay. Thank you, Marisa. Ted Liebold, Transportation Policy Director. Councils, just wanted to give you a short update on the JPAC meeting this morning. And then Chair Lewis can also maybe supplement anything I might have glossed over. The agenda this morning, we did have the same presentation you just had on the Rose Quarter, I-5 Rose Quarter MTIP amendment and their recommendation to you. So I think you've got that part covered. We had 2 other significant agenda items. First was a review of with our federal affairs staff, Betsy Emery, on transportation-related activities currently being worked on at the federal level in preparation for the JPAC trip to Washington, D.C. later this September. This includes both a authorization bill, which is a 5 to 6 year bill that includes all of the federal policy statements on transportation, and also sets up the individual federal funding, transportation-related federal funding programs to advance those policies. And then Congress will also be working on the annual appropriations bill for the actual transportation funding amounts to go into all those funding programs. So both of those activities will be going on while JPAC is in Washington, D.C. So it'll be really a timely trip for members to advocate for the region's interests. And so a lot of the comments this morning were reviewing the messaging and materials that will be developed for the trip, and JPAC members providing input on those messaging and materials. And then finally, we had an update from our regional transportation planning staff on the draft work plan and engagement plan for that RTP update, which needs to be completed by November of 2028. And that was in preparation for JPACT action in September to adopt that those work plan and engagement plans that will also be coming to Metro Council on October 1st for your final approval. Some of the messaging we heard, messages back from JPACT members that we heard this morning was kind of questions and comments about how the process will conduct and utilize the evaluation of projects in the plan, and wanting some more clarity on that, and we'll provide that in the work program. And then making sure that our engagement activities would utilize and amplify some of the local transportation system planning and other local planning efforts that are occurring in the region right now, not having to duplicate efforts there. So I think that's a overall summary. I don't know if there's anything you would add, Councilor Lewis, or?
Good summary.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Rosenthal. I think I should add one thing. I'm reluctant to do so, but one of the consensus of the JPAC committee was that there have been a number of rescissions of programs, and it could, two ways to do it would be to advocate for the correction of the individual rescissions, or to advocate strongly for revoking all the rescissions. And the JPAC stood on the fact of that all the rescissions should be gone back. In other words, we should advocate for a blanket rescission of those rescissions. It's a double rescission. Is that like a double negative? I'm not sure, but anyway.
Yeah, I think there was a consensus that the region has been impacted by the grants that had been previously allocated, but then were rescinded, and that we should be going back and advocating for getting that funding back to those projects and programs.
And that's already authored in legislation signed by Senator Jeff Merkley. So the framework would be just supporting what he's already negotiated with his colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, great point. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you very much.
Great update.
And I see we have a RPOC update as well.
Good morning, Metro Council Vice President Wong and Metro Councils. For the record, my name is Yesenia Delgado. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the SHS Division Director here at Metro. I'm here to provide a recap of last week's SHS Regional Policy and Oversight Committee, otherwise known as RPOC, that happened last week on July 8th. As a reminder, the SHS RPOC serves as a governance committee for the Supportive Housing Services Fund, and it also provides oversight and policy recommendations and serves as an advisory council or body to Metro Council. At last week's meeting, the committee discussed the SHS KPIs, KEIs, and goals, and how they all work together. This was originally intended to be the final discussion before a vote at the August meeting. However, the committee had some challenging but productive conversations around how to move this work forward. During the discussion, Here Together reminded the committee of the feedback they submitted in May on the KPIs and goals. And also at this meeting, Mayor Buck, Beatty, and Wilson also shared a printed proposal outlining some of their goals as represented by the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium. These discussions really showed that the committee is continuing to build momentum and further define its role and direction. Based on that discussion, Chair Gonzalez decided to extend the process and add another round of discussion before a vote. The chair informally asked whether members preferred adding a meeting before August or delaying the vote until September, and it just felt like in the middle of summer trying to schedule another meeting, it just felt more feasible to just extend the vote to the following month. At the end of the meeting, staff also provided a high-level overview of the research on a Continuous Quality Improvement Framework, or CQI, followed by a brief discussion. As you all might remember, this was a reform that was passed by Metro Council to look into in March. And feedback on the CQI framework ranged from support to questions about budget impacts and whether it should be a priority for this committee at this stage. And finally, I also want to note that our chair announced at this meeting that the council approved adding a new RPOC member with expertise in Native American, Alaska Native, tribal, or indigenous homeless service systems. Before I pass it over to our committee members, I'll add that we are responding to member feedback by developing a formal process for how committee members bring proposals to RPOC and improving how we respond to feedback that we have been getting from RPOC members. We've also set aside time at the August meeting for groups such as Here Together and the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium to present their proposals and for the committee members to ask questions. With that, I'll turn it over to our counselors who also serve on SHS RPOC, President Gonzalez, Councilor Lewis, and Councilor Wong, to see if either of you would like to add anything to the meeting.
Well, that was a great summary. Thank you. I think it was heartening to see our various stakeholders kind of lean in and come up with their own proposals. So I think, it seems like are creating a process for that. I think some of the feedback I've also heard is wanting a more streamlined approach from staff, because I think there's many staff supporting RPOC, but who is like the bottom line person that can collect everything and kind of facilitate the whole staff process.
Yeah.
And then I think we had started talking about subcommittees as well. So I don't know if we're going to have a future conversation on that, but it seems like continuous improvement, isn't perhaps the best place to spend a ton of time in RPOC. But I do sense that it's important and that we should have, interested parties and experts, working on that together. Those are kind of my takeaways. Councilor Lewis, did you have any other?
Yeah, sure. I should first acknowledge that I was only in attendance for the first hour of the meeting, as I was on the East Coast and at a conference where the Oregon Caucus was convening for dinner. So I left right when we were starting to talk about who had a letter and who hadn't seen a letter. And I just want to lift up that we have a lot of folks at the table with different power dynamics and different resources in order to prepare things for consideration. But I do expect that we would move forward. Yes, letting other folks run policy ideas. That is their prerogative as folks at the table. But I also feel like getting handed a paper copy of something at a meeting is really hard to respond to. And, I had seen the mayor of Lake Oswego, who was at the table 12 hours earlier, and he had mentioned that there would be something, but I would hope that we are working this table with a spirit of collaboration, particularly for those who have staff, like the counties who are regularly meeting staff to staff. I understand we don't actually have as regular a practice of checking in with the city representatives, and we should build that muscle. Yes, it's on them to start putting together things for the four corners of a negotiation, but I also don't like surprises because it will continue to delay us if we're not actually prepared to process what's being asked of us. So I do think that led to some kind of procedural questions in the moment, but I have larger procedural questions about how we can really equip everybody to come to the table with policy ideas fleshed out enough for actual discussion.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions?
Then I'll just note that thank you so much for that feedback. RPOC is a new thing we're doing here in our region. We're learning a lot as we go, so I really appreciate you all highlighting some of these pieces, and just know that staff are committed to evolving and adapting as we kind of get more of this feedback and we learn more and more what's going to make this committee more successful. And yeah, to your point around subcommittees, Liam Frost and I will be back to Metro Council on July 28th to talk about potential RPOC subcommittees or work groups and get your direction a little bit more on where we should head with that. And then the next RPOC meeting is scheduled for August 12th, and the agenda, like I said, will mostly focus on goals, KPIs, and KEIs, and then there will be an update on the SHS system evaluation work that got launched last year as a follow-up to the President's work group on SHS and how to make some improvements to it. So that will be the agenda for next month, and then we'll be back to provide all of council an update on that. Thank you all.
I did really appreciate how much time we had for discussion. Just didn't really have any presentations, but very robust conversation and a lot of viewpoints. Oh, and I did want to flag there was some confusion around public officials and just making sure that we have a baseline understanding across elected members or elected officials and non-electeds as well.
Thank you.
Oh, did you want to say anything? No? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, Councilor Communications. We had a great climate panel. Thank you, Marisa, for facilitating.
That was fun.
It was a fun panel. Anything else? No?
Oh,
Okay.
yep.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Lewis.
Yeah, in addition to celebrating the very cool Metro Climate Lab, I also just wanted everybody to know that I had the privilege of going to the groundbreaking for the Willamette River Greenway in Lake Oswego, and that is a local share project that is connecting 2 miles of trail, and it is very ADA design, or the disability community was core to the constituency, and so ADA plus with the switchbacks and with being able to bring folks down to water level. So excited to see that local share come to fruition, and for the city for sharing the Metro Parks 2019 story as they break ground.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, the council meeting is adjourned. Council will now meet in executive session, and let's give it 5 minutes. Executive session will be held pursuant to ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for July 21st at 10 a.m. The meeting.
Counselor?
Yes.
We will not be meeting in executive session until 12 o'clock p.m. Today. That was when it was noticed.
So,
just before we adjourn, I want to make sure that that's on the record, that we will have a little bit of a break for you all to eat some lunch.
That says noon right now. Okay. Okay. We'll meet at noon in executive session, and our next meeting is the 21st at 10 a.m. This meeting will be held at the Concord Community Center in Milwaukee as council considers awards for a variety of programs funded through the Parks and Nature Bond. Thank you.